Peace, my request. Patriots, it's best for you.
Welcome to Patriots Central Radio with Jeremy Dawson and Steve Balestriei.
New England, what up?
International show report.
Yeah, we on the road. The Pats going ham for the Super Bowl.
And welcome to Patriots Central Radio. My name is Steve Balestriei. With me is my co-host, Jeremy Dawson. We're part of the Pro Football Central Network, and we're here to bring you another great show at Patriots Central. Today, our special guest will be Joe Caporoso, who runs the most excellent website for the New York Jets, Turn On the Jets, and he's also the host of Pro Football Central, Jet Central. So he's going to fill us in on a lot of what's going on with the Jets during their OTAs and mini camps. But first, let me welcome my co-host, Jeremy. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's been a nice, good Patriots information going on since our last show. So definitely have some interesting stuff to talk about today.
And even though I don't want to, I know we have to get right into this, and that's talk about Tim Tebow. I think this is the issue that's been beaten to death. I mean, he is the Patriots' third-string quarterback, but that's the news that's, just dominating the airwaves. So what do you say we get right into the Tim Tebow thing? What's your take on this? I
mean, it's really a tough situation. As a Patriots fan, how is he going to help our team? I'm not quite sure. I don't think anyone's 100% sure yet. But at the same time, being from New England, you got to understand that Tim Tebow is our kind of guy. Like, as far as, if we're just talking about character, it makes more sense than any other player on the roster just because, he's a great guy. He works just as hard as anybody. It's just, is the production always there? Not exactly, which makes it a little bit confusing because Patriots have always been a, no nonsense kind of team. Like, if you're not producing for us, it doesn't matter who you are. You're not staying on the Patriots. So will he make the roster? I'm not sure. The Patriots have had nothing to say but good things about him. So, I mean, I'm still on the fence right now.
Exactly. And, it's like I've always been a Tebow fan since he played in Florida, and I think he has it in his being to be a solid, if not a very, very good NFL quarterback. But he has to have the right system that plays to his strengths rather than, things he can't do. And right now, that's the only thing that I see that's holding him back because I don't feel he fits in the Patriots system. I mean, you look at what Tom Brady does. He reads the defense. He makes that 3 to 5 step drop. He gets rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds, and he hits the open receiver with pinpoint accuracy. Those aren't necessarily the things that make Tim Tebow what he is. His mechanics have always been kind of shaky at best. And, I think with the right offense, Tim Tebow could be a good quarterback. I just don't think this is the right one. But we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Right. I mean, that's definitely true. I think he could be a quarterback. Everybody keeps talking, the Patriots are going to find different ways for him, fullback or whatever. But honestly, I think that the only reason he was such a successful runner is because he was playing quarterback. If you actually put him at a fullback position, he's not fullback size. He's just not that guy. And he's never played the position, so why would he be able to just, I don't know. It doesn't make as much sense to me as it seems to make to everyone else. I think if the New England Patriots see any way that he can be the Patriots' future, it's got to be you're going to turn into a running team, get a solid running back and have a good defense because he's more of a play-the-clock quarterback. He's not going to drive you down the field over and over and over. He's going to just waste time. He'll put points on the board. He'll make some good plays, and he can clearly finish at the end of the game because that's where his success came in Denver. I mean, he won so many games in the last minute or two or in overtime that that's who he is. He needs to he's not gonna any comebacks. He's not gonna blow any teams out. But if we are a clock managing team, then it would work out.
Exactly. And, in the long run, I just don't see him playing another position. And if the Patriots' plan is to sit him down all of this year and maybe even part of next year and, have him learn the system and work with his mechanics and whatever to try to work him into a Patriots-style quarterback, then I don't have an issue with this. But the one thing I don't want to see is for them to give him a little bit of a package of a few plays here and there because, I don't want to see them take the ball out of Tom Brady's hands. And a friend of mine who's a Red Sox writer, I equated it to him because he was hoping to see the same thing, give Tebow, a wildcat package. And I was like, well, you're a Red Sox fan, and if in the ninth inning the bases are loaded and David Ortiz is up, do you pinch hit Stephen Drew for him? No, you would never dream of doing that. And this is how I feel. I mean, you don't want the ball out of Brady's hands. But, hey, we'll see how they work it out. I know that he was playing strictly quarterback in the mini camps, but you never know with the Patriots what their plan is going to be. And we'll just have to wait and see next month in July, once the training camp starts, how it's all going to work out. But, if their plan is to make him into a Patriot-style quarterback and take their time with him, and I don't have an issue with that. My only thing is I don't want to see him on the field this year unless it's in a blowout situation. If they're up by 4 or 5 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, by all means, let him go out there, let him go crazy, do whatever he wants to do, well, whatever the coaches want him to do, and let him play. But other than that, I really don't want to see him on the field.
Yeah, I mean, this can't be a situation where, like the other teams made it, where they tried to fit a package around Tim Tebow. I think that the best thing for him, if he wants to be an NFL starting quarterback again one day, he needs to sit as any other backup quarterback is and wait their turn. And, I mean, honestly, even right now, he's not our backup quarterback. He's third string. He still needs to pass Ryan Mallett. I think that's a big thing. He needs to – don't worry about getting on the field and starting. Worry about, having a preseason battle with Ryan Mallett. Get backup position first. Because, honestly, Ryan Mallett's not a bad quarterback. He has one of the strongest arms in the league. So it's not going to be easy for him to – even when we have those calls, he still might not see the field because Ryan Mallett's still sitting there.
Exactly, and I think Mallett is the backup quarterback until further notice. I mean, I would think he would have to have a horrible training camp to be unseated by Tim Tebow. That's the only way I think I could put that. The correct way is I just don't see Mallett being unseated by Tebow at this point. I mean, we'll see what happens in July, but right now I think the chances of him unseating Mallett are very, very slim. And I think right now, I think it's going to have to be, if they keep Tebow, it's going to have to be keeping 3 quarterbacks.
Right. I agree. Which, I'm not opposed to by any means. I mean, having depth at your quarterback position is definitely not a problem. And as far as Tebow's concerned, I mean, even when the Broncos picked up Peyton Manning to get rid of Tim Tebow, basically, I mean, I was kind of hoping that he stays as Peyton Manning's backup because the quarterbacks who he sat behind has been Mark Sanchez and Kyle Orton. That's not like people say that he needs to learn how to play the quarterback position in the NFL, but who's he learning from?
Exactly. Well, now he's going to learn from the best. So
exactly.
We'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Right, definitely.
Are you looking for an NFL website that doesn't throw rumors against the wall and hope they stick? Then please go to ProFootballCentral.com for up-to-date news and information. ProFootballCentral.com is back and better than ever. We're dedicated to being your #1 NFL fan site, so come check us out at ProFootballCentral.com and experience the difference.
Warning, the following guest is on enemy territory. Warning, the following guest is on enemy territory. Beware.
And welcome back to Patriots Central Radio. We have an intruder alert with the Jets with us this morning, but it's okay, sports fans, because he's a friendly intruder because he's part of our Pro Football Central network. We are very happy to have with us this morning Joe Caporoso. He's the co-host of Jets Central on the Pro Football Central Radio Network, and he's also the host of an outstanding website, Turn On the Jets, If you're looking for information about the Jets, I know a lot of Patriots fans love to read up on the opponent the week before. Well, they play the Jets a couple of times this year. You need to check out his website. I want to welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being on.
We're glad to have you. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about your website and how fans can find you.
Sure. The site is it's turnonthejets.com. It's been around for about 3-4 years now. Actually, it used to be part of the Fanball blog network, which was owned by NBC Sports a few years back. But after that closed down, we just kept it running on our own. And it's been like that for a few years now. The staff's been growing a lot over the summer, and we're ready for the 2013 season. We could be followed over on Twitter just at @TurnOnTheJets, and again, the web address is just turnonthejets.com.
Great. So let's jump right into it. So what do you think the biggest story has been in the off season so far with the OTAs and the mini camps for the Jets?
I mean, the dominant story is always going to end up being the quarterback situation. It's inevitable whenever the starter isn't a clear cut, like it is for you guys always up in New England. Although you never know, you're never going to have those Tebow stories. Doesn't matter how many Super Bowls Brady wins. But for the Jets, it's really been about Sanchez and Geno Smith and who's played better in minicamp or OTAs, which is always a little crazy to break down, passing stats and padless practices. It's, how much can you really learn from that? But I think that's going to remain a dominant storyline until halfway through the preseason. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets didn't name their starter until the middle of August, probably heading into that third preseason game.
Great. I'm going to pass you right over to Jeremy.
All right. Well, first question, since we're on the topic, any chance we can get a prediction from you? Who's going to be the starter come week one?
I really think if as long as Geno Smith shows he's competent and could can handle the offense without being completely overwhelmed, I don't think Rex Ryan will hesitate to start him, just because he started a rookie quarterback, his first year as head coach, and the Jets, went to the AFC Championship game, and I think his patience is really at the end of the line with Sanchez at this point. So unless Sanchez can really, blow, Geno away over the summer and really look like he's that much further ahead, I see no reason not to hand the reins to, Geno right away. And an offense that's not going to ask a ton out of its quarterback. It's going to be very run heavy. The team's going to be built around the running game and the defense. You're going to see a lot of high percentage short passes and screens likely, for Marty Morningway, and that's something that Sanchez struggles with, the screen game and accuracy in the short, intermediate game. So I really would not be surprised if Smith ended up starting as a rookie from day one.
Nice. Do you think that the signing of Kellen Winslow has a lot to do with that, the fact that they're going to bring in a new quarterback? And I understand that their receiving core isn't exactly the strength of their offense. And so I was wondering if you think maybe a new tight end to go with a new quarterback, is that kind of a sign?
I think it's a nice addition. I think it was needed, regardless of who the quarterback was, because the Jets are unbelievably thin at both tight end and receiver. I mean, before signing Winslow, they were kind of slated to going in with Jeff Cumberland as a starter, and Hayden Smith, a guy who's never even really played before, he was a rugby player 2 years ago, was the backup. So obviously to have a guy like Winslow, who's been a 70, 80 catch guy before, and if he's healthy, I think will easily walk into that starting role as a nice addition. And the Jets need as many pass catches as they can get. I mean, it's not hard to see if you look at their depth chart at wide receiver, with the injuries with Santonio Holmes is coming off of and Stephen Hill's coming off of. Anyone who could catch the ball and has experience is a welcome addition at this point.
Definitely. Let me pass it back over to Steve.
All right. On the subject of wide receivers, Joe, I know that I was reading some of the posts that you had on your blog, and it's a lot of the same things we've been reading about Patriots up here during the OTAs, and that is this time of year you're seeing a lot of drops. The wide receivers dropping the ball, and is that something that that bothers you? Because to me, this is it's a function of the spring. This is when you get all these concentration issues out of your system, basically. But is this something I know I've been reading? Well, most teams are all writing about that. Oh, the guys are dropping the ball. Is this an issue for you, or is this just because there's really not much more to write about in these shorts and t-shirt sessions?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think any kind of stat or storyline out of these practices, in May and June without pads, with OTAs or minicamp, you can't get too worked up about them. Obviously, you want your receivers to catch the ball consistently, but these are the times as you're learning a new offense and you're getting comfortable, with new players, that these mistakes are going to happen. You don't want to see them, carrying over to July and August into the preseason games, but I think, Jet fans' concerns comes more from a guy like Stephen Hill, who has a history of, dropping passes. As I think you guys will remember, he dropped a huge pass in the Jets-Pats game last year. Jets probably win that game if he catches the ball. So when you have a guy like him who's had a history with drops and it's still not resolved yet, even in practices like OTAs or minicamp, that becomes more of a storyline. When you hear something like, Jeremy Curley or someone has a few drops, you don't go crazy because he's been productive before in, a real game situation. So the Jets, are young and, thin at receivers, so any kind of mistakes are going to get magnified a little more than they normally would.
Moving on to the running game, I know the Jets were really high on Chris Ivory. They picked him up. Is he going to be that kind of guy, you think, that can carry the ball 250 or more times this year, to be that kind of workhorse back? And I know Rex likes to have that workhorse-type guy in there if he doesn't really want a committee. Do you see him fulfilling that role?
I certainly hope so. I think that was, the intent when they traded for him. I think he has the talent to thrive in that role. He's never really been given the chance to be a lead back, and I think there's reasonable questions about if he's durable enough to handle that kind of load for 16 games. But in terms of the talent, just, running talent, I think he is miles ahead of what Sean Green was, who was never really a true lead back, just, really gets what's blocked and couldn't break any tackles and make any plays. I think Ivory, especially in this Jets offense, which is so weak in the passing game, is going to get every opportunity to be 20, 25 carries per week and be a 250 to 300 carry guy and kind of be the focal point of the Jets offense, really.
Great. Well, Jeremy, go ahead.
All right. Well, just to stay on the offensive side of the ball, and before you came on, we were talking about your ex-quarterback, Tim Tebow, if you want to call him a quarterback there.
Oh, that guy.
I know, of course, he came into New York with a ton of hype, and, the bandwagon was behind him. Mark Sanchez had a tough season, so a lot of people were asking for Tebow to get in. He never really got the time. There was, really no production with him, even though they brought him in, and it was kind of Tebow's decision to go there. Why do you think his production was so low with the Jets?
I just think there was a disconnect between the Jets front office, between Rex Ryan, between Tony Soprano, who was just a hideously awful offensive coordinator, and the Jets were such a mess on offense last year that they certainly couldn't handle a complex situation of, using a quarterback situationally or having a special package for him. The way they used him just really made no sense. I wasn't a fan of the decision to bring him in at all because I thought you had a guy like Sanchez who was kind of on the border and could have went either way, and I certainly don't think bringing Tebow in helped at all. And what you had a lot is you would have a situation where Sanchez would actually start to play okay and complete a couple passes, and then they would, put Tebow in immediately for, a 2-yard run. And it was obvious what was coming, and the Jets were never really able to make any big plays out of the situation. I mean, that's not really the kind of guy Tebow is, I think, where you can put him in for one every 20 plays and he's going to rip off like a 30-yard gain. He needs to be kind of wear on a defense, or if he could even do that at that point. It was just it was a weird situation from the beginning. It was handled terribly at every level of the organization, and I'm not exactly, sure what, New England's plans for him. When I saw the move, I know, Belichick is, friendly with Urban Meyer. I could see it as almost, a personal favor. Let's get this guy. Let's make him our, third quarterback. Let's coach him up. And with the way the Patriots work, you could see them, coaching him up for 2 years, making sure plenty of positive press gets out there about the development of his mechanics and how he's improving as a quarterback, and then they'll trade him for like a 4th-round pick 2 years from now to a quarterback-needed team. So we'll see if he actually has an on-field role, on the team this year. I obviously, anytime you're taking off Tom Brady off the field, I'm happy. I mean, you want to take Brady off the field, but Tebow, it's not like you're getting any better at quarterback doing that. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely.
Just to flip the field for a second, get back to the Jets. you guys, of course, lost probably your biggest defensive name in quite some time in Darrelle Revis. And Cromartie filled his role last year amazingly. He even made the Pro Bowl, I believe. And so he'll definitely play that spot. What do you think's going to be going on the other side? Does the rookie D. Milner get right in?
Yeah, I think Milner is going to basically be a day one starter. I think they'll keep Kyle Wilson in the slot, and Kyle Wilson will even really be competing for reps in the slot. We have Aaron Berry, who is finally healthy and I think can push for playing time. We also got another young guy in Darren Walls, who I think will push Wilson for playing time, who really hasn't been very good the last few years. I think they really want Milner, as a top 10 pick to step right in and play on the outside. I think that's where he's comfortable, and I think he has the skill set to be an immediate starter. He played at Alabama, he played against a high level of competition. He's going to be, full go from day one.
You guys have some new cornerbacks. We got some new receivers. That'll be a fun matchup to watch for sure.
Probably more fun for you guys, as it usually is.
Any last questions from you, Steve?
Yeah, one more question while we're on the subject of the defense. I know that other than Juwan Landry, who do you think is going to step up and be the Jets safety next to him this year?
I think it's going to be kind of a platoon situation. I think they got 2 second-year guys in Josh Bush and Antonio Allen who kind of have different skill sets. Josh Bush is more of a free safety. He's almost built more like a cornerback. And then they have Antonio Allen, who's almost built more like an outside linebacker and is kind of a similar player to Juwan Landry, where he's better off being in the box and in run support. So I think you'll see both of them kind of rotating through. Rex is, creative. I think you'll see some of the cornerbacks, lining up at safety in certain looks, maybe a guy like Berry or Walls that I mentioned. I don't think there's necessarily going to be one guy who's going to play, 95% of the snaps, across from Landry. I just think they don't really have a guy who's distinguished himself at that level yet. Maybe somebody will, but I think it will kind of be by committee, at least to start the season.
Great. And, we've been reading a lot about the turnover in the front office. Do you believe that Rex Ryan's on the hot seat this year?
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. I mean, this is New York, and you miss the playoffs 3 straight years in a row. You're inevitably going to have your job security questioned. I think with Rex, considering the state of the roster and kind of how they're rebuilding, if he could get 7-8 wins out of this team and keep them relevant and competitive into December, I think he should hold on to his job, and I think he could hold on to his job. I don't really think Rex is the problem here per se. I just think there's a lack of talent and obviously shakiness at the quarterback position. So, the Jets are going to have a lot of money next offseason. They're going to have 12 draft picks. They're really going to be able to add to their talent next season after Sanchez comes off the book and Santonio Holmes probably comes off the book. So if Rex to kind of tread water here and keep the Jets competitive with very low expectations they're coming in with, I think he'll be able to stick around.
Very good. Well, Joe, we really thank you for your time and some great insight on the Jets there. We look forward to talking to you at least a couple more times during the season. I know week 2 isn't that far away. I know I'm excited to get training camp started here next month. And we thank you very much again for your time. And one more time, tell Patriots and Jets fans where they can find you on the Internet.
It's just turnonthejets.com, and then over on Twitter, just @turnonthejets. And thanks for having me, guys. We'll definitely do this again throughout the year. It's definitely before week 2, that Thursday night game.
Definitely.
Great.
Good luck this season, just not too much.
Same back to you.
Definitely just got to thank Joe again. That was really good insight. The guy knows the stuff about the Jets. You can definitely, everybody listen to his radio show. That's going to be Turn on the Jets Radio. Maybe we should change our name to Turn off the Jets Radio. I'm not sure.
Yeah, as we said on the lead-in, Joe really knows his stuff about the Jets. He has a great website, and I encourage all the fans. When they get ready to play the Jets, you want to read about what's going on, and there's going to be a lot of new faces on the Jets this year. That's one of the things that's going to be coming up early in the season. The Patriots are going to have a lot of new faces on the offensive side of the ball, and the Jets are going to have a lot of new faces on both sides of the ball. So it's going to be a very interesting, way to start the season off this year. And I think the whole AFC East is like that.
Right. The AFC East, very new this year. Every team offensive weapons have just changed drastically. And, I mean, I believe it's our first 2 games. I think we go Bills-Jets. So, I mean, even if the Patriots turn out to be the superior team, there's going to be a lot of new stuff on the Patriots offense. And, I mean, the Jets and the Bills can definitely sneak a couple wins in there. I mean, I'm not too worried about it because I think the Patriots are still the best team in the AFC East. But, you know, it's going to be a shaky start to the season. So, something to look out for sure.
Absolutely. The whole AFC East, the whole landscape is changing. You know, the Dolphins spent a lot of money this year, and they got some weapons for Ryan Tannehill. Now it's up to him to step up and be a player. And the Bills made a lot of moves, and the Jets have a lot of new faces. They might have a new quarterback with Geno Smith. So there's a lot of unknowns. The AFC East is going to be interesting, especially early in the season while we see things start to play out before things settle down. So I think it's going to be a very, very fun season to cover this year. And, I still think the Patriots are the team to beat in the AFC East. I really don't see the Jets being there this year. I think they're more rebuilding year. But Buffalo, Miami, those are going to be some interesting games, especially the ones down the stretch when people are jockeying for playoff position. So I think it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's going to be a very different year. It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, the Jets, I don't know. I think the Jets actually could be a little bit of a mess, to be honest, because I feel like they are in a rebuilding process. But at the same time, like we ended the interview on, Rex Ryan is kind of playing for his job right now. So I know Rex Ryan wants to win, but I'm not sure if the rest of the organization is on the same page. Like they don't need it right now, but they've got the new quarterback, Geno Smith. I'm hoping that he starts week 1, to be honest, because Mark Sanchez, I've seen enough. But I mean, we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a fun season.
Yeah, I think right now, even though we're hearing a lot about the job is still Sanchez, I think it's Geno Smith to lose in training camp, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But I know the Patriots, getting back to our team here, the Patriots brought in a few players, and, they were kind of under the radar guys. And, lost in all the Wes Welker hoopla when he signed with the Broncos was the fact that they brought in a guy, Adrian Wilson, strong safety, and I think he fulfilled a very big need on this team. The one thing that they lacked was that big physical safety that can play in the box and cover the tight ends, and that's been a very bad weakness for this team in the past few years. And the entire signing of Adrian Wilson kind of slid under the radar, and he's a guy I think that's going to make a very big difference in this defense this year.
Right. I mean, last year Adrian Wilson didn't have a big year, but if people really just look back, I mean, 2-3 years ago, Adrian Wilson was widely regarded as maybe the best strong safety in football, with Troy Polamalu having all of his injuries. And, I mean, I think it's going to be great. Because physicality was a thing that's been missing from this Patriots team with our defensive backs. And, I mean, we cleaned it up a little bit last year because, we got Bernard. He's a pretty physical corner, a little small, but he gets in guys' faces, and I think Adrian Wilson's size is going to be huge when he comes up the middle. It's definitely a big addition.
Exactly, and I think Wilson, I think he got a kind of a bum rap last year because, the Cardinals were in a kind of a transition themselves. They knew Wilson, was starting to get a little older, and they brought in a guy, Rashard Johnson, and they were putting him in sub-packages, and I think a lot of people took that he couldn't cover anymore. But I don't really buy into that, because if you saw the game Wilson had against Tony Gonzalez, he limited him to 3 catches for 30 yards, and that's a guy that can still light it up on the field himself. So I think that, I think Adrian Wilson is going to be a very big addition to this defense. And, you look at him and Jamie Collins, and again, kind of under the radar draft pick, But, when you see those guys, they fulfill a need. And I think that's going to be another big one. He's a guy that can cover in the linebacking position. And then the other weakness on the Patriots defense, I thought, was the interior pass rush. And they addressed that with, Armand Armstead and Tommy Kelly. So I think the Patriots defense is definitely looking up this year.
Yeah, and I think it definitely has more depth than we've seen in recent years, and there's a lot more like veteranism out there. So hopefully, I'm expecting to see a lot of versatility in our defensive schemes. I mean, we used to kind of basic, and now I see a switch between a 3-4 and 4-3 a lot more often now.
Absolutely. And, jumping to the offense, I know there's a lot of new faces at the wide receiver position, and we've been reading about how they're going through their growing pains, which is, it's expected. It's May and June mini camps and OTAs. This is going to happen. But, I read an interesting comment on Saturday from Matt Shadow, who was our guest on our last podcast, and, he was saying a lot of the hand-wringing going on with Patriots fans and some of the media about the Gronkowski and Hernandez injuries this spring is kind of overshadowed by the fact that the tight ends that they actually have in camp right now are better than most teams have anyway. So I think the Patriots offense still goes through their tight ends, and I think they're going to be just fine.
Right, definitely. I mean, the tight ends that they have backing up, it's Jake Ballard and who's the new kid? He's been playing. Right, he's been playing very well. So yeah, and that's definitely a big addition.
Oh yeah, and Sudfeld's a big target, and he had some injury concerns of his own in Nevada. He was redshirted a couple of times because of injury, but he's a big kid. He's 6'7", and he had a great senior season out of their pistol offense. So he's a guy that is kind of like my under-the-radar guy to watch for the offense this summer. It was going to be T.J. Moe, but he tore his Achilles, so now I think he's going to be watching Sudfeld a lot. But I'm kind of excited. I think this is going to be a great summer.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of names getting shot around, and it's going to be really fun to watch who really gets the playing time once the regular season comes around. I mean, I also understand, unlike the Jets, the Jets' problems right now is that their players are dealing with the rust. And we have a lot of new receivers, but it really hasn't been production that's been the problem. It's more been injuries. And I understand that Aaron Dawson and Josh Boyce have been sitting out, which were our two, biggest names as far as rookie receivers go. But lately I've been hearing a lot about Cincinnati's Kenbrell Thompkins. I understand that he's been taking snaps over Donald Jones, who he got from the Bills. And he was an undrafted rookie, so he definitely went under the radar. But lately he's been taking a lot of first-team snaps. And, he's got a good size, he's a name to look out for.
Absolutely. And, with all these new faces, I believe that, the camp competition is going to be really good to watch. Between the wide receivers and the tight ends, you have a logjam of guys at defensive end. They got 7 defensive ends that could conceivably make the squad, and, it's going to be fun to watch. And I really think it's going to be a great training camp this year with the competition at these positions. And I think Bill Belichick will have the guys firing on all cylinders on day one.
Right, and honestly, I love the options that we have at defensive end. There's so much depth there. I wouldn't be mad if we just had a rotation, throughout the season. Just keep, 5 or 6 guys switching in and out. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, Jeremy, I guess we're at the end of our podcast here. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our readers?
Nah, just keep watch out for new posts for not just our radio show, but I understand that you have a article out with us.
Yes, I just wrote something about Adrian Wilson, as a matter of fact. That's why I brought him up. Thanks for mentioning that. But if any of our fans out there haven't seen it yet, please check that out about how I think Wilson will fit in this defense. And while we're on that subject, if any of our fans out there have any questions, feel free to tweet them to Patriots Central, and we'll be happy to read them and answer them on the air, and we'll get to every one of them. So what do you say we wrap this up? From my co-host, Jeremy Dawson, this is Steve Balestriei. Thanks for listening to Patriots Radio, and have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Patriots Central. For Patriots news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.